Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison are back to use the league to, no, we're here to use the Dynasty Trade Finder, the Dynasty Trade Analyzer, to find some trades to help you make some trades and to have a good time. And fantasy football is about having a good time. And to me personally, it's about them trades.
Of course.
So
what else is there to do?
I don't even, definitely not setting lineups. That ain't fun.
That's for the birds, dude.
You
make trades so you have fewer decisions when you set your lineups. That's the strat.
Yes. Depth is for suckers, everybody. You heard it here first. But okay, so yet again, Addison saves the day with a very interesting idea for us to talk about. It's funny, like we talk about rookies when they come in, and we always talk about like value installation and make it seem like rookie values don't usually change all that much or along the first year. But the truth is, rookie values can change a lot across their first year. You know, I guess maybe it is probably a little easier for it to go up than it is to go down, because we could make excuses all day long for why they should not go down. You know, oh, they're young, they need to get used to the speed of the NFL, their coaches were terrible, and there's plenty of stuff. But like when a player shows out, you can't keep their value down, right? Like you need to adjust. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about ascending rookies. And this first one we're going to talk about, I mean, I've been seeing on the social medias in the past few days the idea that this guy is pushing his name in for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I don't know. I mean, Jaden Daniels has been playing really, really well. They haven't been playing super well the past couple weeks.
Really, really well. I think that I think we're seeing the Cliff Kingsbury bell curve already.
It happens every year.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And they figured it out. And I'm going to take a second and talk to the wide receivers on the Washington Commanders. Everyone else tune out for a second. It's just you and me, receivers. Stop going down inside the 10-yard line. You need to stop it. Jaden Daniels needs touchdowns, but once you get inside the 10, they're just going to run it in. Don't you want touchdowns? You want touchdowns, don't you? They're good for you. You make money when you score touchdowns. So score. Keep going. Don't get tackled. Thank you. All right, everybody can start paying attention again.
Mm-hmm.
It's been killing. I mean, my one Austin Eckler share is loving it, but otherwise,
I have Brian Robinson in a few leagues. I do not hate it.
But oh man, it's my Jaden Daniels. He needs some touchdowns, man. It's been killing me that he just hasn't been throwing touchdowns. It's only because they keep going down, and once they get in there, they know their running backs are good enough to just bring it in, so they don't even bother throwing it.
It's like the reverse of Philadelphia, where it's like Saquon keeps getting tackled at the one. He's been finding the end zone more recently, but I think he's leading the league in tackles at the 1 yard line, and then does not finish out those drives
because they tush push it.
They just tush push it.
No one will ever steal that record from Calvin Johnson, though. Megatron was a work of art. How many times that man got tackled inside the 1 yard line? It was ridiculous, and he was still as good as he was.
Very true. Daniels only has 10 passing touchdowns. Oh my gosh.
It's rough. He really just hasn't been throwing touchdowns in the past 3-4 weeks. He hasn't needed to. I mean, it's not like they've been winning every game, but like their offense is just, that's what happens. They get inside the 10 and then they run it every play. He runs it in every once in a while, but that's not enough.
He's got 4 rushing. He's got 14 himself. Only 3 picks. So that's good to see.
Oh, no, he's great.
3 picks. He's been great.
Oh, yeah.
Just more touchdowns.
More touchdowns, please. But we're not even here to talk about Jaden Daniels. We're here to talk about the other good rookie quarterback. We're here to talk about Bo Nix, who had a bit of a showing. I just messaged you what his last game was. Hold on, I need to pull this up. 28 for 33, 307 yards, and 4 total touchdowns. And with that wide receiving core, or lack thereof of a receiving core,
well, it was funny because that game, every wide receiver except for the actually good wide receiver that they have scored a touchdown.
That checks out.
It was Vele, it was Mims, Franklin, and Lil Jordan Humphrey all scored. And Cortland Sutton is just like, I'll get my 7 passes for 80 yards and I'll call it a day.
I could feel the Sutton managers tilting still to this minute. Just everyone else but him. But Bo Nix is really good. And the thing was, a lot of times it seems like he was being drafted in rookie drafts because he was there. You know, you hit a tier where, you run out of wide receivers, the running backs are, and then Bo Nix was sitting there. So you took him. He was a luxury pick. Not many people were excited to draft Bo Nix in their rookie drafts. Now I hear those people screaming, I was excited. Oh, good for you. I mean, it worked.
Fans were like, yes.
It worked out well for you. Good for you. But I know a lot of people weren't thrilled with Bo Nix, but it seems to be a wonderful surprise. So let's take a look at some trades involving Well, I guess let me ask first. Now, of course, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and whatever it actually was. I know it wasn't 400 yards. And I said it 3 seconds ago and I forgot already. I think it was just
304.
Yeah, I knew it was a little over 3. Bo Nix is good, right? Like, again, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions isn't going to be an every week kind of thing, but like Bo Nix is good, right?
It certainly seems like Bo Nix is becoming good. I mean, he took a few weeks to get there. His first 4 games were pretty rough. He only threw 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions over those first 4 weeks. Only had 1 game over 220 passing yards, 2 under 140. Wasn't all that great. Completion percentage was really low.
Yeah.
But since the start of October, so over the last 7 games, his 17-game pace would be 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, which for reference, over 15 games last year, CJ Stroud threw for 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So Nix is outpacing Stroud in terms of passing touchdowns. He's basically throwing the same amount of interceptions. Stroud was throwing more yards, but Stroud also had Nico Collins and Tank Dell for a majority of the year. And Bo Nix also runs the ball too. Like, he's on pace for 450 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground.
Nice.
Like, that's not something that Stroud also offers.
Nope.
So, and he's doing it with Courtland Sutton and Devon Vele, so it's kind of like the bump that we gave CJ Stroud last year for, okay, well, year 2 of like elite Nico Collins, getting Tank Dell back off the injury. They add Stephon Diggs. The bump that we gave Stroud last year for that, or this past offseason, do we give that same bump to Bo Nix when he hopefully gets a good wide receiver to come in and complement with Sutton next year?
Yeah.
Just it's interesting. I tweeted out, it wouldn't be that bad. I tweeted out, I asked, is Bo Nix the rookie QB2 in the class right now? Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix in Dynasty.
I mean, he's playing like it, whether you still want to give the excuses for Caleb, which he deserves because that team is dumpster fire. The Bears.
Well, I got some of the comments that I got to that was they would have him over Caleb, but they'd still have him behind Drake Maye, which
I do like what I'm seeing out of Drake Maye, but again, Drake Maye isn't doing he hasn't had as much time under center as Bo Nix, because Bo Nix started in the beginning.
Yes.
But I think Drake Maye might be more fun to watch because, man, that kid can extend plays like it's his job, because it kind of is his job, because there's no offensive line or wide receivers to speak of.
Yes.
But like, I think Bo Nix is just playing better football. But I do like what I'm seeing out of Drake Maye, and also hope they bring in some pass catchers and some offensive linemen to help him survive.
Yes, agreed. Oh, and the last thing on Bo Nix is one of his major pain points, or people would point to a deficiency coming out of college at Oregon, was that he was like the dump off master. Yeah. That he just had like really good receivers who would just extend plays and stuff. He over the last 7 weeks, again, that same stretch where he's pacing for 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns, he is averaging 7.4 yards per attempt, 8.15 adjusted yards per attempt, which are I would say above average numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Especially for someone that's called a dump off guy, that's absolutely not averaging a dump off. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so let's look at this first trade, which is out there. All right, so 12-team Superflex. We have Bo Nix, Mike Evans, and a third for Kyler Murray and Calvin Ridley. Like, this is one of those trades to me that is showing that people are valuing Bo Nix. So Bo Nix, 309, Mike Evans, 185, who should be coming back this week, right?
I believe so.
Last week was the bye. This week should be coming back good. 25 third is 50 points for a total of 544. Kyler Murray, 773 on his own. Calvin Ridley, 99 for a total of 872. Like, I love that we're talking Bo Nix here, and I love that this is showing value for Bo Nix, but man, this is Kyler Murray.
It's definitely gotten closer to a conversation with Kyler not playing as well, playing better over the past couple of weeks before the bye, but not as well as what we thought that he would be.
Yeah.
Bo Nix's value in the trade finder is really weird because there are some trades where it's like he's valued for literally nothing.
Yeah.
Like somebody would trade like Trey Benson and Tyrone Tracy for Bo Nix in a super flex, and that gets done. Or there's a trade like this where it's like, oh, somebody like really wants Bo Nix. And I'm sure that they're also looking at, you'd prefer Mike Evans over Calvin Ridley as a contender. Just like Calvin Ridley's been doing really well, but
past few weeks.
It's also still Mike Evans. Much better offense, much better quarterback, no Chris Godwin. And you get the third. So it's not like, I mean, that's kind of like a nothing piece in regards to all the other things, but you're the one getting the third, not giving up the third. So it's a nice cherry on top.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You still want Kyler though?
Yeah, because I don't think the difference between Evans and Ridley would be that big. Like maybe we're talking 2-3 points per game, but I just think in the long run, Kyler Murray. You know what the thing with Kyler is, like, we came into the season thinking that the secondary pieces would be more solid than they really are. Marvin Harrison Jr. he's not being an alpha. He's not being the guy. He's being a big play guy, but like, he's not a target hog. He's not really being everything we wanted him to be. And of course, it's still early in his rookie year and all of that stuff, so there's still time. But, McBride is being McBride. But, I also kind of thought, with like Zay Jones and Greg Dortch and a lot of guys that were very dependable outside of those two guys, that it would be a steadier offense, and it's not. Like, and not like those guys are big names or anything that I just mentioned, but like, they're always very steady pieces of their offense. Like, remember how great the Jacksonville offense always clicked when Zay Jones was on the field. Like, it was weird. Never made sense, but it always did. And remember that time Zay Jones stood up by his tiptoes when he was on Buffalo still? Like, that was...
Yes. I still don't know how he did that.
I still don't think that was real. I think that was a glitch in the Matrix. But like, I still believe Kyler Murray, and someone yesterday made the joke about, they were just messing with me that they would sign T. Higgins to go across from Marvin Harrison Jr. just because T would go from Jamar Chase to Marvin Harrison Jr. But I wouldn't hate that for the team.
I was going to say, like, they could take a page out of the Eagles playbook where they just in a slightly different order, where the Eagles started with Devonta Smith, then traded for AJ Brown. And so now the Cardinals started with Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think we hope turns into the AJ Brown alpha.
Yeah.
And now they need a Devonta Smith. They need that wide receiver 2 who could be the wide receiver 1 on a good majority of other teams.
Yeah.
So they need somebody like T. Higgins. They need a Jalen Waddle. They need somebody like that. Like, if they went out and they got a Brandon Ayuk kind of a player, right? I don't really know who that would be, or if that ends up being available for trade next year, but they need another dependable wide receiver 2. And I think that would really help Kyler.
Agreed. But that's why I'm still taking Kyler. I think long-term Kyler is still the answer here.
Yeah, I agree. And you're not really aging down either. Like, this isn't like some like, oh, you're getting some massive
27 to 24. 3 years doesn't, at this point, isn't that big of a deal.
Yep.
And plus, you're still keeping old at wide receiver 31 to 29. Like, you're not really saving much there. They're both aged past value anyway.
Yep.
This next one is a little bit more interesting, though. Bo Nix for a 25 first and Keon Coleman. And Bo Nix at 309. Caution, Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most points in the deal, which I disagree with, but okay. 25 first is 372. Keon Coleman, 129 for a total of 501. I would easily pay a mid first in Keon Coleman for Bo Nix.
Yes.
I'm thinking right now that I don't know what's coming out next year, but I still think I would probably like Bo Nix better, if not as good as the QB1 that's coming out, because there aren't any great QBs coming out, and we've seen Bo Nix do very well in the NFL with very little help around him.
And then it's also not like when you think about the teams that are going to be drafting these quarterbacks at the top, like I think we're hoping that they go to the Giants because then they'll at least get Malik Neighbors. But you know, I don't like the Vegas maybe because then you get Brock Bowers, and then maybe if they add somebody else, and then you know, Jacoby Myers is the wide receiver 2 again, and they have a Brock Bowers guy, and they pull the draft your quarterback at 102 and then draft your wide receiver at 202 kind of thing.
Yeah,
that could be interesting. But yeah, like, but I think the other issue is that this is the mid first, and I looked up, they were in, I think, 7th place right now, but they were basically, it's a bunch of teams in that league that are 6-5, 5-6. So it, like, depending on how the next couple of weeks shake out, this could be the 5 or 6 seed. This could be the 8th, you know, like the 8th team in the league at 104, essentially. So it's kind of like a weird range of the first round pick, but even still, like, it just feels like Bo Nix would be a better quarterback pick than any of the players that you would get in that range at quarterback. If you assume that maybe this is 106, we'll just put it right in the middle. We assume that's a 106, the first team out of the playoffs. You're not getting Tet, you're not getting Burden, you're not getting Genty, you're probably not getting Shedeur Sanders. And after that, there really isn't like a set in stone who's the next best person after that. Maybe it's, you know, one of the other running backs. Maybe it's another wide receiver. I like the other quarterbacks is like Quinn Ewers, I guess. Like Carson Beck has lost a bunch of.
I've been hearing
Cam Ward would be up there, but yeah, that's like.
I have no idea how he's playing this year because I don't watch college, but it's a name I've been hearing a lot lately.
Yes, yeah, he's got the rushing upside. He's kind of like the. I'm not going to comp him to like Anthony Richardson.
I was about to say, if you're about to say that, you better pump your brakes because that's not cool. Even though he did good.
He is the mobile juice upside, like the Justin Fields, the Trey Lance. If they put it all together, then he's going to be fantastic. That is Cam Ward this year. But I bet you he probably wouldn't be there. If we assume that this is 106, he probably isn't going to be there either.
Exactly. Yeah. Going along with what you're going. So like, this seems like a huge victory. And then like Keon Coleman's fine.
Yeah.
But not enough to make me not want a guy who I think will be a very solid he's the QB 10 right now, I think. So
in points per game.
Yes.
Well, that again, take that from since week 5, he's the QB 4 overall.
Okay, well, even there. So there you
QB
go.
5 in points per game since the start of October. You know, basically when his development has really started to kick in.
And again, I'm not going to pretend that this is real, but like, come down to earth a little bit. He'll be, if anything, a very solid QB2 for your team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe keeping it up there as a low end QB1. So very easily Bo Nix in this one for me.
Yeah, same as well.
All right, let's see who we're talking about next. Oh, we talked about Drake Maye a little bit, so let's keep talking about Drake Maye. We said everything we wanted to say about. Do you have anything else you want to say about Drake Maye before we just get into the trades?
No, not really. I think the way that I'm viewing Drake Maye right now is that people like him more than I do. It's not to say that I don't like Drake Maye. It just seems like people have already placed that crown on him. That I'm not
like that.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily there yet. Like he's one of those players that if you're not in with the massive consensus that he's like a top 8 or 9 dynasty quarterback right now, then that just means that you're not going to get him in trades. You're not going to be able to buy him lower than that. Like, even if he's a top 12 quarterback for me in dynasty, but he's not top 8. I feel like people already have him like top 8 or 9, you know?
I haven't stopped and thought about that in a while. Like my actual ranking of QBs. It's been a while since I sat and looked, but man, that's rough.
He is QB 12 on KTC, but he's behind Purdy and Herbert and Kyler. And I feel like most people will probably put him above Purdy at this point. And maybe over Herbert and Kyler as well. So that's what knocks you into top 9.
I put Purdy over Maye right now. He's still just scoring too well. Like regardless of what you think of him, and if he's just a system QB, it doesn't matter because he's in the system. He's going to stay in the system.
It's always the argument. He's got the system. He's got the weapons. Nothing's changing.
Right. I'm not even the biggest Purdy fan, but I put Purdy over Maye at this point. I'd put Kyler over him at this point. So yeah, I guess I'm with you that I might just not be getting him because the first trade, 12-team Superflex, is Drake Maye for Puka Nacua. That's Drake Maye 412.1, Puka Nacua 569.3. I mean, this is I would definitely take Puka here. I don't care about what situation your team is in. It's a 23-year-old stud wide receiver.
Keep trade cut has Puka ahead of Drake Maye too. But if you put Drake Maye up to like what I was saying, like as the top 10 quarterback, they would basically be back to back. I want Puka Nacua here. There are a good handful of quarterbacks that I would take over Puka, but not really many more. Like he has shown that he is
good,
an alpha wide receiver. Like when he's been healthy over the past couple weeks and not suspended, or ejected, I should say, he's really good. He's really, really good.
Yeah. Let's just keep going. Drake Maye and Kenneth Walker for Jalen Hurts. Wow. Drake Maye 412, Kenneth Walker 374 for a total of 786. Jalen Hurts 908.7. I don't know a situation I trade Jalen Hurts for those two. Like I don't think Drake Maye is scoring well enough for me to call that a tier down, and I don't think Kenneth Walker's scoring well. Like Kenneth Walker's doing very well, better than I like. I'm pretty much at the point where I might be taking an L on thinking that Kenneth Walker's not that great for fantasy because he's doing pretty well. But yeah, man, this is Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is 26. So again, this isn't an age down thing. Like I don't see why you do this.
Yeah, I don't understand this one either. It's so easy from the Drake Maye side to take advantage of the Drake Maye hype and to just give a good asset, a good producing asset in Kenneth Walker, but also a running back in Dynasty. Like it's hard to place much long-term value onto that. And then whenever you can just move over to Jalen Hurts, who's a top 3 Dynasty quarterback and is also producing like it too. Like I just looked up, Drake Maye took over in week 17. Started out hot, had 2 20-point games. And since, which I say week 6, he's a QB 17. I think that's what I don't know if I said that right. He took over in week 6, and over that stretch, over the last 6 games, he's a QB 17 in points per game,
which is good. Don't get me wrong.
Do you know who the QB 1 in points per game is over that stretch?
Is it Jalen Hurts?
It's Jalen Hurts. He's averaging 26.5 fantasy points per game since week 6.
Yeah, that's exactly. I don't see this at all. So I guess if you have Drake Maye on your roster, and especially if you're not starting him, go pull something like this and go upgrade to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy to do. I think there's a lot of teams out there that drafted Drake Maye out of luxury or out of just he was the value pick. You know, we did not you didn't love drafting Drake Maye. But you didn't hate it either because he was obviously much better of a prospect than a lot of other people in there too. And so you just kind of were like, I think this is what you wanted to see out of Drake Maye if you kind of drafted him out of luxury of, hey, I had this ascending asset, and now he either is a player that I can move for a bunch of value and upgrade somewhere else, or he makes one of your quarterbacks ahead of him expendable that you can then get something else for one of those quarterbacks. And I think that's precisely what we're seeing right now.
All right, so let's move on to Ladd McConkey, because Ladd McConkey is taking on the Keenan Allen role. I got to like...
Essentially.
It's we made the joke that he's coming in to take the Keenan Allen role, but he's not really going to take the Keenan Allen role. He's kind of really taking the Keenan Allen role.
He kind of is. Yeah, I'm taking an L on this one hard.
Same. I've taken this one already because he's doing it. He's not quite throwing touchdowns or doing just as much as Keenan was doing, but let's face it, that's not a lot. That's not fair to ask, I guess, really is the way I should say it. But he's doing really, really well, especially compared to what I thought. And he's probably working his way, top 15-ish wide receiver?
He is wide receiver 21 on KTC.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little... Again, I haven't looked at ranks in a long time to be able to see where I placed him, but given the fact that he's only 23, he's a rookie, tied with Justin Herbert, who's been throwing the ball a bit more than we thought he would lately. and he's doing really well with it. Like, you got to figure that, especially if you're on a rebuilding team, you're valuing Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, for sure. Since week 4, actually, yeah, since week 4, that's fine. I was trying to see because they had a week 5 bye. They had a very early on bye, but since week 4, he is on pace for 112 targets, 80 receptions, over 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So that's
People would call
essentially
that
the Keenan Allen role.
Good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, so let's look at the trades to see how they're going. 12-team, 1 quarterback, Ladd McConkey and Blake Corum, because why not, for Jonathan Taylor. Ladd McConkey, 351, Blake Corum, 92 for a total of 443, Jonathan Taylor, 543. It's a little light for me. Like, I think I agree with the analyzer that it's still a little light. I wish it was someone better than Blake Corum. Like, maybe if it was, I know that we've seen nothing worthwhile out of Trey Benson, but I would still feel better if it were Trey Benson.
We've seen it. He had a couple weeks of standalone value.
Did he? I mean, I haven't felt it, but like, I still like the player more. I like the landing spot more. Well, I like the landing spot more because I think James Conner is closer to the end of his tenure than I do think Kyren Williams is.
Yeah, Benson can break out of the handcuff role by next year.
Exactly. But I still feel this is light. Like, to me, this is still Jonathan Taylor. I get that if you're rebuilding, you just kind of want to move off the running back and the running back points. In which case, I feel it a little bit more. I get it, because you're also getting the rookie running back. It's fine, but I still think it's Jonathan Taylor.
I'm on the opposite side of you on this one. I just feel like, from a rebuilding standpoint, I think we both agree that this is pretty easily the Ladd McConkey side.
It's just my question of, like, I'm questioning the value, not the idea. Like, this is one of, like, in practice, in theory, absolutely. I think I want 50 more points on the analyzer just to make me feel better about it. Doesn't need to be the 100 to catch up, just a little bit more.
Okay. So if it was like just McConkey in a 25-second.
Love it.
Okay. That's all the difference. It's Blake Corum for you.
Yeah, it's just that second piece not being enough for me.
Okay. But I mean, so from a rebuilding standpoint, I think it's Ladd McConkey pretty easy. From a competing standpoint, I understand it. Like, I feel like a lot of people who drafted McConkey, especially in the range that he was going in rookie drafts, is that he most likely ended up on a contender.
Yes.
Because a contender saw him, was like, well, if he was drafted by the Chargers, he could be their wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert, play that Keenan Allen role, which is basically exactly what he's turned into. And if you bet on that as a contender at the 111, 112, you might have other really good wide receivers ahead of him. You know, like, he might be your wide receiver 4 or 5, not necessarily like an every week start if you were that much of a contender last year. Yeah. And now you're continuing to do that this year. So, and then you're looking at your running back position, you might be kind of struggling a little bit. Would be like, I can turn, Ladd McConkey into Jonathan Taylor, and I can get an actual starter, an RB1. Yeah. I understand it from that standpoint, but I still just don't know if that is something that I would be wanting to do as a contender. Like, I think I would rather hold on to McConkey and try to see if I could just move Blake Corum, add something else to him, and then go and get James Conner, or go and get, Aaron Jones, or like a more microscopic move, and hold on to Ladd McConkey for the dynasty value that he possesses. That I don't think that I would do this. I don't think there's any reason to move off of Ladd McConkey right now for Jonathan Taylor. If it was a better running back, like if this was Kyren or Achane or even Saquon, like I feel like those are probably the 3 running backs I think in dynasty rankings that are just ahead of Jonathan Taylor in value. So if it was one of those, then I would probably go for it. And obviously, if you made a slightly bigger package and this was Bijan or Gibbs or somebody, then yeah. But I just don't know if JT is on the other side of the "this is worth it for me" line.
He's doing a lot worse than I thought he was. He's RB20 in points per game. Jonathan Taylor.
And now with Richardson back, Richardson has the ability to vulture goal line touches, because Richardson had 2 rushing touchdowns last week, and I know people are concerned about that.
Yeah.
JT was fine earlier in the year with Anthony Richardson, and before he got hurt.
Yeah.
He had a couple 100-yard games and scored a couple times, but
yeah, 11, 16, 27, and 20 were his points before he got hurt. But then it's 19, 9, 14, and 7.
That's what I mean. That like, what can I get for Blake Corum, my contender second? You know, can I go and get Ramondre Stevenson, and that'll.
You know what this smells like to me? This smells like panic when you need to start 2 running backs and one of your running backs got hurt or something. Like you need to fill a spot, which is also why I hate having multiple starting requirements.
Yeah.
Like that's what this feels like. This feels like you're sacrificing Ladd McConkey to fill a spot. That's
you got to play the dynasty game. You can't play the contending game for the next. I mean, we all want to win the championship, but if you're going to hurt your odds of winning championships in the future by making that's what I don't like. I don't like sacrificing future championship odds to minimally increase your championship odds for this singular.
And if you're going to sacrifice your future, you might as well do it in picks instead of in players that are doing well already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like he was saying, by using your second to go get Connor or something.
Yep. Because if your one running back got hurt and you're making this move to go get JT, then, you know, knock on. I'm just saying, screwed. You'd be screwed again. Be screwed twice.
All right, so let's go to our next trade, which is 12-team Superflex. Isaiah Pacheco, who should be coming back soon, Ladd McConkey, and Chase Brown. That's a nice package for Jahmyr Gibbs and Michael Pittman. Does Michael Pittman still play in the NFL?
I actually am not sure. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So Isaiah Pacheco is at 221, Ladd McConkey 199, Chase Brown at only at 101 for a total of 521. Jahmyr Gibbs 625, Michael Pittman still up at 283 for a total of 908. So I don't think the analyzers really caught up to the values of Chase Brown and Michael Pittman. I think they meet in the middle on this.
I think they should honestly, they'd probably more likely flip. I don't think Pittman falls to 100. Never mind. But I think Chase Brown gets up over 200.
Yeah, especially with if Moss was still playing, I think it would be different. But the fact that Chase Brown's the dude, like I think I read that he's gotten every running back touch like the past 2 weeks or something.
Because not every touch, because Khalil Herbert fumbled his first carry. So there's at least one touch that Chase Brown did not get.
Okay, there you go. So everyone except for that one, probably
99.9999.
Yep. And with Jahmyr, I think we talked about Jahmyr Gibbs like last week or the week before, where like he's not having the greatest season in the world. He's having a good season. He's RB5 or something weird like that, but still, I don't know what he did this past week, but he still hadn't really broken 20 points very often.
Well, they smacked.
He only had one touchdown. Montgomery had 2.
He had 18 fantasy points.
Yeah, like he's having a good season.
That's standard. He had where is he? 19. 19. He had 18 fantasy points in standard, 19 in PPR. And Monty outscored him. Yes, because
Monty had 2 touchdowns, so that'll do it. Yeah. I like this move because this is spreading out your points for now and for the future. I mean, I don't know if Chase Brown is going to be the dude in Cincinnati from now on. Like, this reeks of them bringing in another running back anyway. You know, just like the Bengals did back in the early 2000s, where you had Gio, you bring in Jeremy Hill, he leaves, you bring in, I forgot who else there was. There was another running back at some point. Like, they just kept bringing in other running backs just to make them a set for some reason, just because they felt like they needed to. But still, with what Chase Brown's doing right now, what Ladd McConkey can be doing, and I guess it depends on what you feel like what's going to happen in Kansas City once Pacheco comes back. Is he just going to take his job back, or is he going to have to split with Hunt? But either way, I think what you're getting out of McConkey and Brown this season and what you'll get out of McConkey in the future, I don't hate this as much as I thought I did when I first read it. Like, when I first looked at this trade, I'm like, oh, this is Gibbs. But now it might not be.
I still think it is Gibbs for me, but it is certainly close.
Yeah, the value is still Gibbs, but I think in the practicality of it all, I don't hate the other side as much as I thought I was going to.
Yeah, because I mean, you can. There's there's dynasty value and there's production and there is future hopeful return to value on like both sides of this deal, right? So because like you're getting the production out of Chase Brown right now, but what is his dynasty value? Do they not replace him, but do they bring in more competition so that he's not like the 99.999% workhorse? McConkey's producing now, has great dynasty value. Jahmyr Gibbs is producing now, has great dynasty value. Michael Pittman hasn't been playing football. He has, so that was the joke that you said at the beginning. But he's essentially not playing football. Isaiah Pacheco actually is not playing football. But the hope is that, Pacheco and Pittman maybe next year can return to value that they had, coming into this season, with both of them healthy and producing once again. So it is definitely like a hodgepodge of players here that I think that I still just lean towards Jahmyr Gibbs as the best player in the deal.
Yeah.
But it's certainly very close. And I think that both sides are like, you could find a multitude of teams where it fits the Jahmyr Gibbs sides and a multitude of teams where it fits the McConkey Chase Brown side.
Yeah, I feel like that's the definition of a good trade, right? Like that's
perfect.
Which again feels off, especially since the analyzer is putting this as 520 to 908. Yeah.
Well, that's the analyzer. That's the one pain point for the analyzer is in season. The values don't update as quickly because we only run ADP once a month. So
that's it. Constant mocks. One ends, you start the next one. That's what you got to do.
Let's do it, Ryan. Ryan McDowell runs all the mock drafts, which is
mock draft.
Keep doing it.
Keep doing it. Hold on, let me scroll. That's it. That is it for our ascending rookies. This has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at @AmazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.